Sibling, Coleman! And second of all, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, Wesley Eure!
And we have a special guest. No, it's not Spencer Milligan. And ladies and gentlemen, direct from the Lost City, in the cave, be afraid, be very afraid, the Sleestacks have come to attack. Please, no sudden movements. Please, stay. Be nice to them, okay, Sledge? Remember we had one Sleestack that could talk. It was Sledge, remember? No, Enoch was, was
not a Sleestack.
Well, he was. No, he was
the ancestor.
Exactly. And then every 100 years, a Sleestack was born that could talk. And Sledge, what do you have to say about this?
That was me. Wow, I'm so excited that this is happening, you folks. My name's Kevin from the American Sci-Fi Classics Track, and yeah, as Joe said, we are so super excited to have Kathleen and Wesley back with us again. Terrific to see you both. We're all huge fans of Land of the Lost, I assume, and I have a few questions and subjects that I wanted to go over with Wesley and Kathleen, and we are certainly going to open it up to all of you as well. Joe's going to be working the mic in just a few minutes, but just to get us started, I want to go back to, this was a Crofts production, Sid and Marty Crofts production. So radically different from everything they'd done up to that point. Crofts at that point was Puffin stuff, it was Lidsville, it was Bugaloos, it was Sicker Than the Sea Monsters, which was just so crazy and silly, and now suddenly we're going pretty dark science fiction. Do you remember the reaction, the response, the thoughts about what this show was like at the time when it started?
For myself, it was the first series I'd ever had, and so just coming onto the set the very first day was really exciting. I'd already gone and shopped and got my outfit. I met the cast. We'd been on like 7 different callbacks, so I got to meet everybody. Plus the fact that I had worked with Phil Paley, who played Chaka. I worked with him before, so it was cool. On one of the interviews when I went in, he was there, and I said, "What are you here for?" And he said, "I'm interviewing for this show called Land of the Lost." I go, "So am I." So we wound up working again, together on Land of the Lost, which was great.
Can you say what it was that you and Phil worked on together? Because I know what it was, and I wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
It was a Shakey's Pizza commercial.
They were brother and sister sitting in the back of the Volkswagen thing. Remember the Volkswagen things, little square boxes? And their mom and dad were driving, and they were singing a song. Now, Phil isn't here to sing along, but I'm sure Kathy would regale us with the song that she and Phil sang when they were little kids.
I used to fight it, now I just do it.
Just do it, Kathy.
Do I have to do all the parts?
I'll do some of the parts.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, I'm Phil Paley.
Okay, let's see.
Now, imagine they're little tiny kids.
Okay, hush, hush, hush. I like munching.
I like crunchy.
We like eating Cheez-Its. Great cheese taste in every bite.
We like eating Cheez-Its.
Oh, I like munching.
I like crunchy.
We like eating Cheez-Its. I love the wild taste of cheese.
Hey, more Cheez-Its, please.
They're great crunching crackers. If you bring your Cheez-It boxes, I will autograph them.
Is that not the most true song ever written? Did you not all
It's 70s.
love Cheez-Its more than anything else?
Because they're great crunching crackers.
But Kathleen, you were a kid. You and Phil both were so young at the time. And
we knew each other even prior to the Cheez-Its commercial. We called it our own little rap pack, but all the kids in the industry that like we had our own little group. We understood each other. It's hard when you work on a set and you hang out with adults all day and then you get put back into public school and the kids just don't have any clue about what your life is, and it's really, it can be very difficult. So we formed like our own little group where we were safe, you know. It was okay to have a job and to be responsible and be a contributor to your family, you know. It was okay. And they understood it because they were in the same boat.
And you would tend to see the same kids at auditions and whatnot. So
Oh, yeah,
as you get
yeah.
to know people. Right?
Yeah.
And now, Wesley, I mean, your experience of coming on board Land of the Lost would have been quite big. You were a little older, not?
I was like 21.
Yeah,
I was playing 16.
Very young
Yeah.
as well. Still pretty young, but old enough that it was very different than being an adult coming in.
Yeah, because I was on Days of Our Lives at the same time. I was playing Mike Horton, which I did for about a decade. Did I get the Days of Our Lives fans out here? But yeah, so I got in Days of Our Lives. A few months later, I was at a pool party at Sid Crofts' house. A friend of mine, Bruce Ostrander, said, "Come to this party." Sid's having a party. I go, "Oh, Sid Crofts, wow." And Sid said, "You need to audition for a new show I have. In fact, here's a number." Gave me the casting director's number. Said, "Call her Monday. I want you in." And I went in and auditioned. And Sid, Kathy and I just did a show with Sid the other day at Live. He has a podcast on Sundays. And Sid, and I've done Sid's show now about 3 times. And Sid said, yeah, this is a little egotistical, I know. He said, "Listen, you walked in, it was yours, we saw nobody else." And he said, "We cast everybody around you. That's why Spencer looks so much like me." He said that we looked for a guy that would look like your dad. And it was magical. I mean, so in the mornings, because they're both NBC shows, so the Days of Our Lives, I got to do all my scenes first for 3 years, and the cast hated me. They just hated me. I would go in the morning, and there'd be all the girls are getting their makeup on, and I'm already shooting my scenes and leaving. And I'm racing over onto Hollywood, because this is Burbank. That was Days of Our Lives, and then Hollywood was the Land of the Lost. And ran to the set of Land of the Lost. So in the morning, I'm crying that my girlfriend's leaving me, I'm having sexual problems. In the afternoon, I'm going, "Run, Holly, run, there's a dinosaur!" But it was the best damn job I ever had. And to be honest, I've always said that Sid and Marty didn't just cast my TV family, but they cast my real family. Kathy and I are brother and sister. Feels like a brother. Spencer, I just talked to a few days ago. He calls me and he goes, "Hey, Wesley. This is your papa speaking." And I go, "Papa, can you hear me?" And he's just, "What? Do you have something you want to say? Do you just want to say something?" Oh, God.
Most Sleestacks are kind of the silent type, or the silent hissing type.
This one's a noisy one. Not that kind of language in front of them, but...
I know what he said.
But there was a really genuine family dynamic. I love to hear that Spencer is still in touch with you today, and you could feel that on the show between the 3 of you. That was a genuine family dynamic, and I think the sibling relationship that you both had also seemed very pure on that show, and especially just the petty arguments I noticed would go on and on and on. Like, you would start throwing lines at each other, and like I couldn't believe how long it would go on, and Spencer would finally just lose it and tell you both that, "Hey,
They're still going on.
But we kind of thing with competing for lines on the show, right?
Listen, we...
He used to. He was such a camera hog, and he was a trained. He was more trained. He had worked more than I had, and he would push me into the bushes, and then turn around to the camera. So I'm off in the bushes now over here, and he turns around and gets the last line in the camera, and it would be something like, he'd be like saying, "Run, Holly, run." And I'd say, "I'm running," and then he'd say, "Faster, faster," to camera. Well, by the time the second season came around, I was on to his whole game. So you will hear, you may see me still get pushed into the bushes, but you'll hear me go, "I am going faster." So at least I get the last line.
The best part, of course, I got top billing in the series, just Wesley. And because the Crofts were so cheap, they couldn't afford the last 4 letters of my name. But Kathy's book, which if you haven't read it, is extraordinary. It won 2 years ago the Best Indies biography called Run, Holly, Run. She stole my line. And the book came out, and have you guys read her book yet? Run, Holly? You just bought it, yeah, at Kathy's table. She's got a few copies here. But so the book comes out, guys, and then asked me to do a blurb, and do a review, like a little line for Kathy. So I, of course, sent it in to the publisher. When the book cover came out, I had top billing. it's my quote, Wesley Eure, and then Run, Holly, Run, Kathy Coleman. But I said, Kathy, for the rest of your life, I'll always have top billing, even on your book.
So fresh.
And we are so close, guys. Like, we just did the Star Trek convention last week, which we've done, because our writers for Land of Lost, we're all Star Trek writers. David Gerald, Trouble with Tribbles, Walter Koenig, Chaka, created Enoch, DC Fontana, all these amazing writers. But we share a room together for a full week in Vegas, and for the last 7-8 years. So we all just, the Sleestack included. So the 3 of us, we bunk together. So that's how close of a family we really are.
And as much as we banter and kid and joke and everything, just like in all relationships, there's the dichotomy, and he also can be so tender, guiding, and gentle with me, like a beautiful, beautiful brother should be. And that's a part of our relationship and friendship too. He really is like a big brother to me, and I adore him.
And you ended up with kind of a little brother on the show as well, because I know Philip was supposed to be here with us this weekend originally and had to cancel, but I wanted to talk about Chaka, Philip Paley as Chaka, because I know he's usually part of your team when you come out to shows like this.
Yeah.
Well, he's amazing. You know how Philip got the part as Chaka? Philip, when he was 9 years old, was the youngest black belt ever in karate in the United States. His teacher was Chuck Norris. And so he appears on the Johnny Carson show. You can see this on YouTube, just Google it. And Philip is literally like this tall, and Chuck is this tall, and Johnny's this tall. And Philip is this little bitty kid, little kid, with the black belt and the white, what's it called?
Gi.
The gi. And he flips Johnny Carson onto the floor, and it's hysterical, and Johnny, of course, plays it for all it's worth. And the Crofts saw that, or somebody, the casting director, somebody saw it and said, he would be a great monkey boy, because they didn't know whether they were going to get an adult to play a monkey or whatever. They said, no, this kid could do the physicality. And so Phil got the job as Chaka, and then Ty and Sa came on board to play his mom and dad. And for preparation, they took him to the LA County Zoo. They watched the apes, they studied them, and they also watched 2001 Space Odyssey. The opening with the monkeys and the obelisk and everything. And so that was some of the preparation they did for the show. And Phil is amazing because the language, the Pakuni language, is a real language. It was created by a linguist at UCLA. And there's a dictionary, the Pakuni dictionary. And so Phil wasn't making up these words. Like when he's 10 years, was Phil 10 or 12? Well, 10, right? He was 10 on the show. And he had to learn.
If he was here right now, he'd be going, "Oh, Gonza Pisasa." We're a Ari. Shara.
But he had to, if you watch some of the episodes, it's Phil, like a magician or something, musician or something. It's Phil speaking the whole show, all Pakuni. So imagine, he's 9 years old, he's doing all this, he's in the monkey suit, which took 2 hours to put on. And he's also has learned all this new language, this Pakuni language. It's extraordinary.
And then you ended up having to pick up a little Pakuni yourself, because as the series went along, you would communicate with Chaka about speaking Pakuni back to him. He was picking up a little English, you were picking up a little Pakuni, but it was all a real language. So
you can
Google lines is hard enough, and now you're learning an invented language at the same time.
Well, in the Pakuni, we found out, because I did a show recently with Marty Croft. We just did a TV show together Susan Anton has a show called Idle Chat. We were the first guest with Johnny Whitaker and Butch Patrick. And he said that the Pakuni language was a combination of like 5 different languages that this linguist took together some of the verbs and the adjectives and that sort of thing, and that's how they created the Pakuni language. And you know, we actually had a contest once where somebody could write and sing the theme song of Land of the Lost in Pakuni, and we had a winner, and they won prizes and stuff like that. I wish I could remember that. I can't remember that.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that episode of The Musician, which was a very Chaka-centric episode, and there's a scene towards the end where he's confronted by sort of an other dimensional boy who kind of pushes along the evolution of the Pakuni people, but that boy is Philip Haley without the makeup. So there is one episode where we see him.
His sister his sister is in the Chaka costume that day. So
If you stop by our table, we have a photo. It's a small photo, and it shows Philip as playing the boy, and he's facing the Chaka, which is his sister. And his sister, tell him about. Do you remember the day of shoot? How upset she was?
oh, she was crying. She hated it. She was scratching and itching, and she hated the suit.
Yeah.
And Phil, that suit, I'm telling you, as itchy and scratchy as it was, it also smelled because they used like all these weird glues for like his facial hair. There was a special gum, that gum glue. It really smells bad. And then they had to spray paint his hands and the top of his feet, and that smelled really bad. So, and then they put these things in his mouth, and those reeked. And he just.
And he had fleas.
If he was here, he'd tell you that these are all the different areas of his body that smell really bad. And he'd say, I felt like a big dirty tube sock all day long.
When you had your school time during the shooting day, would Phil have to still be in the costume, or did they work around his makeup schedule for your?
I believe I also have a picture of the two of them on lunch break, and we've just come back from McDonald's, and we are like half in and half out of costume. So he still had the facial hair here, but he doesn't have the head dress on, and he doesn't have the body thing, but fully makeup, the pancake and everything is still on his face. And I am mic'd, but I'm not wearing a pack on my back, so you can see cords coming out of me, you can see hair coming out of this little boy's face with a thick tan makeup all over his face. And we used to go to McDonald's like that. On La Brea. In Hollywood. We just pop in, here we are.
Now, I wanted to so many elements of Land of the Lost that we want to touch on, but the dinosaurs real quick. And normally you wouldn't see the dinosaurs while you're shooting because that was animation or a little bit of puppetry. But even the puppets, I would think you didn't really have to deal with directly too much. Maybe Dopey a little bit.
I have like an exact replica of him at my table right now.
Nice.
And that's about what it was. It was just a hand puppet if there were close-ups. We had one of Dopey and we had one of Grumpy.
Yeah. But you remember Sid Crofts was started as a puppeteer. He was the youngest puppeteer in the world at Barnum Bailey's Freak Show for 2 years. And when he was a little bitty kid, like 9 or 10, he traveled by himself. And he was part of the geeks. I mean, he was the lowest class of the Barnum Bailey circus with the freaks. And he tells these amazing stories. I mean, he said it was terrifying. I mean, it was 1,500 people that would travel with Barnum Bailey back then. But like the acrobats and the high wire, they were the top act. You couldn't talk to those people, and he was at the lowest class of them all. And he was just a little kid doing puppets. And he said he used to sell for 25 cents. He had a little puppet that he would sell, a paper puppet. And he said, "Don't open it till you get home, because it didn't work." And he would sell this thing. But that's how the Crofts, of course, they were puppeteers. Sid was. Marty was a used car salesman, and it was his brother. And Sid was saying that he was doing a show. Sid used to be the opening act for like Judy Garland, for all these amazing stars back in the day, and like at the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami. And he needed because there's a lot of handling. And one of the guys had to leave to go do another show. Was going to be a dancer, and he had nobody, so he called Marty in. And Marty came and became his assistant for a while, and that's how they started working together as Sid Marty Croft.
And that was the dynamic, because Sid was really the more the creative side, and Marty was business, sell the show.
Yeah.
And to this day, it's amazing what a career they've had.
When Kathy and I did, he's got this Instagram show, Sid does, and we did it from Vegas the other day, and because I sang the theme song in the original series, all the opening and closing and theme songs, and Kathy and I sang it for Sid. And if you go, you can, because it's archived, you can go to Sid Crofts on Instagram, and you can see it, and you can just see him, the look, right, Kathy?
Oh, yeah, he's watching it, and we're watching him, we're on Zoom, like a Zoom call, so we can see, how he's reacting to everything that we're saying. But when we started singing, I looked at the camera, the camera, and he was looking at us like, these are my kids, It was really very, very interesting to see that we're like not only like his creation, but we were like, he had a real like heartfelt feeling, and it was nice.
Atlanta is really special, I think, to the Crofts story as well.
Oh, yeah.
This is
Hello.
where
Good seeing
the
you.
Crofts
Yeah.
theme park was just a few blocks from here.
Yeah.
It's the CNN building now, and I ran by it this morning. And I always ask when there's a Croft panel here at DragonCon, is there anyone in the room that went to the Croft theme park? Yes, wow. I'm so crazy jealous of you.
Yeah, me too. I didn't get to go.
You never get to go?
No, I never went.
Yeah, it was not there for long. It was a few months.
And I remember when they were opening, because Sid was really busy with the park when Land of the Lost was in production, so he wasn't around as much as Barty. And he was like coming, oh Wesley, we've got the crystal carousel, and we've got the human pinball machine and things like that. He was so excited, and then it came and it went fast. I thought that they were going to be the next Disney's, and I thought, oh my God, this is, we're going to be part of something, huge. We're going to have mouse ears. And speaking of mouse ears, Sharon Baird, who played Saw. There's Todd and Saw, the kind of the nasty. It's either and we can never figure out, is it Chaka's mom and dad, or is members of the other tribe?
They're kind of fuzzy on it.
Fuzzy.
Literally, that was unintentional.
But Sharon,
his parents are not.
are you any Mouseketeer fans, original Mouseketeer fans? Out here from the original ones from the 50s? I'm old. I'm very old. If Sharon Baird was Sharon, she was one of the original Mouseketeers. And so if you watch the old black and whites, hi, I'm Johnny. Hi, I'm Annette. Hi, I'm Sharon. And it's Sharon Baird. So, isn't that interesting? Yeah. So, and she's great. She's a smaller person, and Joe Giamalva, who teaches tap in Palm Springs. He played top. So.
Then on the other side of the height spectrum, and since we have the Sleestack on stage, we should talk Sleestacks a little bit also. Those guys are tall.
Yeah, they were.
If you could please talk in your mic, they can't hear you. Don't be nasty. Do not be nasty. We will turn the lights off. Yeah. Are these lights too bright for you?
Yes.
The good news is if you see him with an bow and arrow, don't worry, he'll never hit you. Well, it was Saturday morning back then. I am warning you. You bring them here, you feed them, you give them their own dark cave, and look how they treat them.
Speaking of the Sleestacks.
The Sleestacks, they're on the platform kind of feet, and they have the pointy heads, but also they hired super tall guys to play the Sleestacks.
Yeah. Bill Lambier, who was on the Detroit Pistons, he was like the bad boy in basketball.
Yep.
He was one of our Sleestacks. I'm so sorry. I feel so comfortable with everybody in here, like we've been having a fireside chat or something. I'm like relaxing. But yeah, Bill Lambier from the Detroit Pistons was one of the Sleestacks.
You'll see that name right in the opening credits if it's an episode that he's in. William Lambier.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the show.
And if you guys know him from basketball, he was pretty nasty.
He played like a Sleestack in the NBA.
Yeah, you guys know basketball. His reputation wasn't great. So a few years ago, he's now coaching the Aces in Las Vegas. It's the women's basketball team. And he's now the coach there. So they made this arrangement with the head of the league for Kathy and I to go surprise Bill. And so we go, because we're doing the Star Trek convention in Vegas. And unbeknownst to him, all the women on the basketball team, they gave him 8x10s of a Sleestack. They had it hidden. So we walk in with this Sleestack skull, and Kathy walks in, and the women all take the Sleestack 8x10 in front of their head, and now you imagine, now he's 7 feet tall, and I'm not the tallest person you probably noticed, and he's like, he couldn't figure out what was going on, and then he suddenly realized it's because we don't look the same that we did 50 years ago, and it was a magical day. And after this was all over, we did pictures for the news and all that kind of stuff. But when it was over, the head of the league came and said, Wesley and Kathy said, listen, I've known Bill since he played in high school, and he said, I've never seen him smile this much. And he was just as gruff with us, and we had some gifs for him and stuff. But it's magical. And now Bill Boyd, another Sleestack, has become a good pal of ours now. He became a successful businessman. And we did a reunion show in Milwaukee, the one and only that Spencer Milligan showed up for. It was just, anyway, it's magical. It's amazing that this show, 50 years later, still resonates and has a new audience. A whole bunch of kids are now watching it. Because the effects look kind of hokey now, obviously. We didn't have CGI. But the scripts were written by, D.C. Fontana, David Gerald, David Niven, Larry Niven, Spinrad, all these amazing sci-fi writers. So we were lucky that the scripts hold up. Time doorways and matrices, the show never talked down to kids in sci-fi. You never explained what was going on. Now we're going to go through a door. There's a time doorway. Never did that. You got to go through the time doorway. So
these shows hold up in a way that I don't think any other Saturday morning show of the past does. They're so rewatchable, and again, the stories are solid. That's to the credit of the writers and also the performers. It was really, really special. So with that said, as we're approaching kind of a halfway mark, if Joe has the microphone over there, I was wondering if any of you folks had questions for Kathy and Wesley?
Or Slash, he's,
Joe is just going to work the room like Donnie. Is that the plan? Yeah.
Thank you all for coming, by the way.
Yeah.
You have no idea how much this means to us. We're shocked always. So thank you.
I was just wondering what came to mind when that Will Ferrell Land of the Lost came out.
The question. Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I'll tell you, in the very, very, very beginning, when I found out they were doing a film, I was like, oh my God, I was so excited. Plus, I was going to be a part of it, so that was super exciting. And then I met with the director, and the director was so knowledgeable of the show and the whole just background of it, and he was so kind and sweet and everything. And I swear to God, the day we showed up on the set, it was like, that man was not there. It was somebody in his skin, but it was not the same director that I met. Had no clue about the show, basically. And then there's Will Ferrell, and the script, we were just a man and a woman. That's all we were in that cameo. It was awful.
Well, Will Ferrell loved the show. He could not have been sweeter. I went on the set at Universal. He came running over to me the day that I met him the first day. He goes, Wesley, I just sang the theme song yesterday. I filmed it, I know you sang the theme song. And Danny McBride, who played Will in the show, came over and we met for the first time. And so I pretended I lit a torch and passed the torch of Will to Danny. I think this is going to be the big blockbuster movie. And, because Will played a character once. Remember, he played a character called Marshall Willenholly.
So Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Exactly. So he's loved Land of the Lost. But it was, so picture this. Premiere, Robbins Chinese, Man's Theater, paparazzi, opening night, Land of the Lost, Will Ferrell movie, right? We've done red carpet. Everybody that you can imagine in the world there. So I'm inside the theater, and we're watching this show, and of course I haven't seen it before, and I'm like, oh God, what the hell's going on here? And in the movie, Marshall and Holly they work together. It's Anna Friel, and he's an archaeologist, and she's an assistant. And of course, in Land of the Lost, it's father and daughter. So there's a scene. It's quiet in the movie house. Will Ferrell reaches in, leans in, and kisses Anna Friel, and I go, oh! I didn't mean to do it. I swear, I didn't mean to do it. It was quiet in the theater, and everybody every celebrity you can imagine is going, what the hell is going on? I was so sorry. But it took me, it was like, I mean, it just, I don't know, it was like, I'd been watching, you know, it was just, it was so out of place for me. You know, and the movie, I mean, there's some fun parts of the movie, and people like it. Sid and Marty Crofts have actually apologized profusely at Comic-Con to the fans. Said, okay, all right, I know, we blew it. Because they lost a lot of money. It lost $200 million. $100 million in production and $100 million in advertising. And the head of Universal got fired over it. And it won the Razzie that year. So, you guys know.
Anybody else?
Just a statement, the Sleestacks scared me to the core when I was little. I'm still scared of them now. Let you know, thank you very much.
Me too.
So what he's saying is, you stay up there. Don't at all come down right here to where he is.
White shirt, okay.
White shirt.
That's very funny.
You can run, but you can never hide. What happened, Marty Crofts said that the Sleestacks were introduced on the 3rd episode, and the ratings for Land for Lost became the #1 show, not for Saturday morning, but for entire NBC lineup, including primetime. That's how big the show was at its day.
I thank you for being here, and thank you for what you've done in this show. And I was an enormous fan. I remain an enormous fan of this show, and of your work in it. It was I can say formative. It fixed my worldview for a long time, and it still informs it. I guess my real question is, what was your relationship to dinosaurs before and after the show? And as a follow-up, I have a small gift for you. Would you please accept it?
Oh, how sweet.
Oh, sweet, thank you.
I can tell you that after Land of the Lost was over, you know, of course I missed being around, you know, everybody on the set and all that. But I remember going to the movie theater and seeing Jurassic Park. And there was that one scene in the movie where the brontosauruses are crossing that one, like, prairie, that one big piece of land, you know. It's just a beautiful, beautiful scene. And I was bawling my eyes out in the movie theater during that part, just sobbing, you know. And I questioned myself. I thought, why is this like having such a profound effect on me? And I thought, you know, I'm not going to be so hard on myself because I don't know anybody else in this movie theater that could say that they had and rode a baby brontosaurus. So maybe, you know, maybe it's okay that it's making me emotional. But that, and before, you know, did I like dinosaurs and was I interested in them? Of course, you know, I think most kids are. But
I got to go, you know, I created Dragon Tales for PBS. And Dragon Tales fans out here? So, and I think that part of that creation was when they came to me, showing pictures with the dragon drawings. It was a connection back to the dinosaurs, dragons and dinosaurs. There's kind of obviously there's that similarity, and so I kind of got to revisit my past. And when I created Zack and Wheezy, the two-headed dragon, which was supposedly, we were going to call them Snarf and Booger back then, but that never went. But Zack and Wheezy, we had a two-headed dragon, a dinosaur, in the 3rd season of Land of the Lost. And it dawned on me later that maybe that was in the back of my mind when I created that character, that was, you know, sort of something that was kind of revisiting myself. So.
Also, your gift for Kathleen and Wesley, I'm going to say now, and they are at the Walk of Fame. They have a table over there, so visit them over there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, so I wanted to thank you because I grew up Saturday mornings, Land of the Lost. I would race my siblings to the TV, so we watched it. I wanted to know, I desperately wanted a dopey of my own. Did anybody keep those giant strawberries, like the props? Is there anywhere you can go and see the props from the show?
they were made of styrofoam, and I would guess at this point they have probably dissolved.
I would love to have one of those.
Well, I brought a little strawberry that is with my dopey on my table. So you're more than welcome to come over and give it a squeeze.
And the dopey, by the way, is an exact replica of the one that was on the show. Proportion-wise and everything, coloring, it looks exactly like the dopey when Kathy would be like about to ride dopey for the close-ups, when dopey would come in and you know.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hi.
So a couple of years ago you came and hung out with us and you were talking about talking to Spencer and then like a documentary or like about the fact that you couldn't get in touch with Spencer and you've been trying to, and then you guys, we hadn't seen you for a couple of years. So how did that all kind of resolve, and now you're on the phone with him and that he did a convention finally, and so is there a story there?
The big story.
Hi y'all, good to see you.
Hi.
Love the show so much.
Thank you.
I would say it's in Kathleen's book, Not How I Run. That story is in the book.
Oh, that was a good sales pitch, wasn't it? And right here, you can slice and dice. That damn book right here. Use it.
Dinner is on me.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I just want to reiterate what Ashley said. Hey, Ashley. We're co-workers. It's Martha. Work at the same hospital. Anywho, I was the same way on Saturday mornings and throughout the week. You know, the woods behind our house was, you know, your property, and we would just like play y'all and like hide, and y'all were always chasing us, and just we would see the dinosaurs, and it was just a fun, you know, imaginary thing that, you know, fun play. But anyway, thank y'all.
You know, we've been fortunate enough, because I mean, when Land Lost came out, you know, it was a special time for Saturday morning and kids and no DVRs and all that kind of stuff. And so it touched a lot of lives, and we've had the most amazing stories of people coming up. Because as an actor, you're doing a script, you don't realize the effect it has. It's a ripple effect. But Kathy, tell them about the couple that came.
The blind couple came up to the table with a guide, and the guide brought them and placed their hands on. I have a green Sleestack head that's like this that I had on my table, and they were each like feeling it, you know, feeling the eyes and remembering what it was that they saw when they were about 10 years old. Well, at about 10, 11 years old, they did not know each other prior, but they each were blinded in some accident or whatever reason. I didn't get the whole story, but from what I understand, they went to like I don't know if it was a Braille kind of institute or some kind of class that they met in, and they both lost their sight around the time when they were watching Land of the Lost, and so to be able to feel their memory and me be able to witness them doing that, and then they asked if they were allowed to touch me and just feel my face and everything, and they were saying things like, God, you've gotten so big, you know, and your hair's so long, and you know, it was just really this crazy, beautiful experience, and so we have like those, not exactly like that, of course, but we have very tender and beautiful moments that we share with fans. They always say, you know, thank you, you know, for, you know, paying so much attention to us and really like not just signing an autograph and sending us on our merry way, but you know, you just have no idea how much of an even exchange it is. We get so much from you coming up and telling us your different experiences and how the show had an effect on you. So it's an even Steven trade-off. And like I said, those blind people were like just in seventh heaven feeling their memories, and I was just absorbing it and just going, this is something. This is almost like peeking into a world that doesn't belong to me, but it kind of does, you know, and I got to witness it. It was really lovely. I was invited to watch it, you know. It was really very lovely.
We had one guy coming up, and he was crying. He's in his 50s, obviously, at this time, and he said, when you lost your dad after the second season, and your uncle was coming in, my family was getting a divorce. He said, I was devastated. I didn't know how I was going to do it. My dad was leaving. My family was falling apart. He said, I was terrified. And I saw in Land of the Lost, you'd lost your father. When your uncle came in, the family survived. he said he gave me the knowledge and the hope that my family would survive, which it did. And he said, he was sobbing, and he said, I cannot tell you how much that meant to me, how it gave me the strength to get through that moment in time. There was a girl from Compton, and Compton back in the days was really, really rough. And she came up to me and to us, and she was again crying. We make a lot of people cry, and it's probably our acting. But she said, purple shirt, but she said that Compton was so scary back then that they couldn't play outside on the weekends because of the danger of gunshots and things like that. She said, so we'd watch Land of the Lost on Saturday morning, and we'd play Land of the Lost the whole weekend like you played. And she said it was the best time. It allowed us to get through this childhood. But we have lots and lots of stories, including two guys that came up to us and go, we thought you spoke Farsi. Because we were dubbed in Iraq at the time, Persia. And they had become, because of Land of the Lost, scientists. And they were two heads of the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena, JPL. And he said, would you and Kathy like a private tour of JPL? Yeah. So off Kathy and I go, and they let us into every department. And there's finally, this is the most amazing.
But prior to this, they told us when they met us at a convention that the reason that they wanted to come and meet with us is we were the very reason, and our show was the very reason why they were in the profession that they were in today.
Right.
And that is why they wanted to do us a favor by taking us to JPL in Pasadena.
Yeah.
And go ahead. Sorry. Well, they took us there, and we got to go into like places like we were not supposed to be in. But the people that ran those places were huge Land of the Lost fans. And it's kind of like, I don't know what happens to people. I guess it would happen to me too if I met George Clooney. I would probably just let him babysit my dog, you know what I mean? I wouldn't even think twice, like, is he gonna hurt it or is he gonna make sure he feeds it, you know? People just give celebrities stuff, you know what I mean? So these people at JPL, we wind up in this big room like this that's pitch black, but the whole ceiling is like lined with like computer monitors, and they're all like going like this and numbers and all that kind of stuff. And then in the very corner, there's a man with a little like night light over him, and he's on a computer.
Just one guy in this room. One
and he's got
guy.
a joystick, it looks like, and he's driving the rover on Mars. Which those two brothers, those twin brothers from Persia, and it was, I know it's Iran today, but it was Persia when they were growing up. They had actual driver's license that were for Mars, you know, because it was super cool. But anyway, this guy let Wesley and I do the joystick.
He said, do you want to drive the rover on Mars?
No, he
We go,
wasn't.
yeah! Now, to be fair, it didn't move the rover on Mars, because what they did was they would, during the day, they would program it on a computer what they wanted to do the next day, and then they'd play it back in. When they got it right, then they would send it to Mars, which takes about 6 to 8 hours for the signal to get there, and then it would move the rover. So what we did, I'm sure he erased.
Yeah, we probably ended up on its back wheels doing donuts.
I mean, with you two at the wheel of the rover, how did it not end up like going through a time door and suddenly we're getting reports of dinosaurs on Mars?
How do you know it didn't?
Yeah, can you imagine if you saw all of a sudden the rover, like the camera goes up a little bit and there's 3 moons and some skylons. Some skylons goes by. A Zarn appears.
Joe, I think you have another question over there.
What is the kindest thing you remember anybody ever doing for you on set?
Giving me a job. We had some amazing time. Well, there was one time, for my birthday, I got a very special gift from a good friend of mine. It was for lunch break. It was a massage. This beautiful girl shows up with a table, a massage table. Now you have to understand, it was a big sound stage. So our dressing rooms were these tall walls. And I painted mine with jungle motif and stuff. And suddenly it's our lunch break, and disrobed, and I have a towel. I think a towel around my tush on my
Phil and
back.
I got wind of this birthday present.
So little Kathy and Phil climb up
Mind
into
you,
the
we were
ladder,
really good friends with the prop master,
and I'm playing there, getting
and
this.
he hooked us up.
Tell him. Go ahead, just stay
I
there.
was just trying to do your story.
So I'm getting this thing, and I look up, and way up, because these are tall, fake walls, because then the ceiling goes on, another 30 feet. And I hear this, and it's those little faces of Phil Bailey and Kathy Cohen are peeking over, looking at me in my disrobed things, getting massaged. And that was, to me, was one of the most, I don't know, it was embarrassing, and it was joyful.
We've all had that dream, right? Like where you're naked and you look up and suddenly Chaka's there. Here we go. Joe, do we have another person? Yes.
So I know they both kind of terrorized you guys, but who was your favorite between Grumpy and Big Alice?
Probably Grumpy for me.
My favorite line in the entire Land of the Lost is Dopey is caught in a tree, and he's going, and making all this noise, and Grumpy's going, oh, Grumpy, and he don't, that good, Dopey. And I'm trying to go, Dopey, get back. And he tries to, he's caught in this tree. I'm trying to get Dopey to move back, Dopey, back. And finally I yell the line that I love the most. Do you want to be dinosaur stew? And Dopey goes, whoop, and rolls back over and runs away. And that was my favorite line. I just never, how do you make a line like, do you want to be dinosaur stew work?
Yes, Sid and Marty went to the extent to have a linguist make a language for the show. Was there a rhyme or reason to the crystals that the Sleestacks had? And like a chessboard?
In the Pylon, those controlled like the weather, they controlled the different sequences of the whole Land of the Lost. I mean, they opened up different vortexes and there was definitely a reason. And the certain colors, if you put them together, they could either cause explosions or they could, like I said, change the weather and things like that. But they absolutely, everything on the Land of the Lost pretty much had its purpose. They were so cheap, everything had to overwork. You had to almost have 5 purposes.
And that's because of David Gerald. Land of the Lost was not going to be this big sci-fi show. It was more like Swiss Family Robinson in their proposal, Sid and Marty. They sold the show with cutouts from a magazine. They didn't even do a pilot. And then David Gerald came on board, and thank goodness for David Gerald. Trouble with Triples. And he got all of his pals and the sci-fi writers, and they created this amazing world. And to this day, people come up to us and are going by talking about time doors and ways and stuff. And my favorite is Walter Koenig, Chekhov, the original Chekhov. Kathy, every year we see Walter at the Star Trek convention. And he wrote the first episode introducing Enoch. It's called the episode's Enoch. And he comes up, he's got his hat on, he's shuffling a little bit now, and he walks over to those damn Sid and Marty Croft. I should have gotten residuals for Enoch. I should have gotten residuals. It's had quite a life of its own.
Have anybody else with a question? Joe is in the back with the mic. Yes.
Nobody panic. I am coming over.
And we have to sing the theme song. I mean, that's a prerequisite. We're getting to that.
We're absolutely doing the theme song.
I'm sorry if this question's a little basic, but I was interested in your thoughts or your feelings or your involvement in the 1980s Land of the Lost remake.
Or the early 90s series?
Yeah, that's the one.
It was weird because they came in a Jeep. Their Chaka, I think our Chaka was the best looking Chaka.
Yeah.
All the Chakas, the one in the movie, the one in the 80s, the 80s series. Our Chaka was cute to me.
Yeah. And Kathy was supposed to be in the 80s one, and then somebody dropped the ball on that one because she had met with the executives at NBC, but you know, it didn't work. I mean, it just didn't work. You know, it's hard when you try to reimagine the original. David Gerald announced, we were just with David in Connecticut a few weeks ago, and he's finishing up a novel on Land of the Lost, which takes place 40 years later in real time. That it's now 40 years later, and we had a brother who was a baby, he couldn't come on the journey with us, and he now has 2 daughters, and they come to find us. But I know our time is limited, so, you know, I was lucky enough I got to sing the theme song for Land of the Lost back in the day. So would you guys now help us? Now remember, there are 3 theme songs. There's the opening, there's the closing, which is my favorite, and then there's the 3rd season. Because in the 3rd season I had to go back in and re-record when Uncle Jack came in because the lyrics didn't make sense. And let's start with the 3rd season. All right, wait.
With the 3rd season?
The 3rd season, when Uncle Jack came in, I went back to the studio.
Got it.
Sing with me? Wait, okay.
Will and Holly Marshall, as the earth beneath them trembled, lost their father through the door of time. Uncle Jack was searching and found the kids at last, looking for a way to escape from the land of the lost.
From the land
of the lost.
And then Rumpy goes, roar. But now let's do the original. You ready? If you know it, you ready? Here we go. When I look all around. Oh, that's the wrong way. Wait, that's the closer. Wait. I'm old, guys. I just turned 70 years old. I just had my birthday last week. So. Oh, sure. Clap for the elder. Yeah, exactly. No, here we go. Wait, so.
Marshall, Will, and Holly, on a routine expedition, met the greatest earthquake ever known.
High on the rapids, it struck their tiny raft. Plunged them down 1,000 feet below to the land of the lost.
To the land of the lost.
And now my favorite, and even in Bubble Boy, Jake Gyllenhaal rocks this out, and so does Tenacious D, Jack Black. If you guys have ever YouTubed it, ready? When I look all around, I can't believe the things I found. Now I need to find my way. I'm lost. Find me living in the land of the lost. Living in the land of the lost. Sid Marty Crofts. I love that. I love the closing theme song. You hardly ever heard it because they'd be going to another commercial by then. You know, they especially later. But it's amazing how many rock bands, including which one had us in Vegas that he just loved it? Guns N' Roses.
Tracy
Guns. His biggest fan. He insisted we come backstage for a photo and sing the theme song with him.
Isn't that funny? Before there was Guns N' Roses, the Guns N' Roses that you know today, there was actually Axl Rose and Tracy Guns, and that's where Guns N' Roses came from.
Anyway.
That is not something you expected to learn at this point.
That's right.
Let's see, as we are wrapping up, we can squeeze in one quick question. If anybody has one super good question, we can get it in. Otherwise, we can start winding down. Anyone? Well, then.
You see, the problem is you asked for super good question. Now, if you had said a stupid, ridiculous.
Have a really bad question? Yes,
I have a question. What's your question?
I've asked so many questions.
No, but one that you've asked questions that kind of for the audience.
Okay.
What is your
I want to
question?
get to this person. So my question would be, what was up with the Zarn? That freaked me out.
He was a creepy character.
It was. It's amazing what you can do with Christmas lights.
He was all about emotion, and he would change colors. He would twinkle.
It looked cool. Like for his
he
cruise
did.
defense
Was he
not
a
really cool.
professional dancer or something?
Yeah, I forgot who played the
He could
Zarn.
really move his body, you know.
Yeah.
But again, a great concept for kids, and that's what, remember, it's a Saturday morning show, kids show. I mean, emotion made him turn red, and I mean, and they never.
Disney just did that movie not too long ago where they had the colors for the emotions, you know?
Right.
Remember that movie?
Right.
Yeah.
So, what, we have a question
Go
right
back
here.
to Joe to this our final question will be right here.
I was just wondering if you'd heard any rumors or thoughts of anybody trying to do a new series, or
Yes.
there's work being
Marty Crofts said they're doing a new series. Of course, Crofts are always saying they're doing a new series. But with the show I just did with Marty, and he announced, said, yeah, we're working on a new series based on the old series. So they're going to go back to what, everything old is new again. And so hopefully we'll get to be a part of that. In David Gerald's book, Kathy has morphed into the spirit of the Land of the Lost. I'm this curmudgeon that lives in a cave and is not very nice. And Chaka is now head of the Pakuni tribe.
I'm so excited for this book. Well, everybody, this has been terrific. Thanks so much for joining us here today. And let's hear one more time for Kathleen Coleman. And they're around the office, or you can sit down at the if you have other questions you think of for Kathleen and Wesley, go and see them right across on the same level of area. You can meet them.
Yeah, guys,
Thank you. And genuinely, from the bottom of our hearts, guys, thank you guys so much for showing up. It means you have no idea the world to us. Thanks a lot.
If you guys would, when you if you use the DragonCon app, please rate this panel and rate all the panels that you go to see, because that helps the DragonCon overlords get awesome guests like these guys right here. Because you rated them so highly when they were here last year, a few years ago, that's why they're here again. And it just so happens that there's one problem with the app. On the American Sci-Fi Classics track, all it does is 5 stars. So just go ahead and put 5 stars on everything. It works out great. But everybody, thank you. Go see them on the Walk of Fame. We will see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, guys.